Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Theravada Buddhism series, Dhamma talk number 40. Consciousness of formless Ram, Arupa, Vacara, Citta. Formless Ram's consciousness mainly arises in the non-material or formless sphere. The highest 4 Brahma Rams out of 20. First of all, it mainly arises in the formless sphere, and it is the 4 highest Brahma Rams out of the 20 Brahma Rams. To be born in these formless realms, one must practice formless jhana after attaining the 5th form sphere jhana. Full formless jhana in the wholesome, resultant, and functional group gives 12 formless sphere consciousness. Of course, there are 4 formless realms. Each has 3 kinds of consciousness: wholesome, resultant, and functional. So 3 multiplied by 4, 12. So there are 12 formless consciousness in the formless sphere. These jhanas have 2 jhana factors. They only have 2 jhana factors. And they are equanimity, upekkha, and one-pointedness, samadhi. Only 2. And they are always associated with panya, insight or knowledge. So, these consciousness are always consist of 3 good roots: alobha, adosa, amoha. Non-greed, non-anger, non-delusion. They have 3 root groups. 3 good roots. This consciousness can also arise in the human realms. and yogis who have attained formless jhana. So even though they mostly arises in the top 4 Brahma realm, they can also arise in human realm, only in those people who has attained formless jhana. Sixteen of the 20 Brahma realms belong to the fine material or form sphere. Fine material, sphere or form sphere. In other words, there is material, even though it might be so subtle and slight. And one out of these 16 form spheres realm is body only or fine material only Brahma realm. Such being, such kind of Brahma has no consciousness, simply the body, and they were lived out up to the extent of the karma they have accumulated. The remaining 4 highest domain belongs to the formless sphere, Arupa. Brahma in the immaterial or formless sphere has no material body, only mind. These Brahmas have no body of any kind, any substance, only the mind exists. When we say mind, it's the consciousness and a certain mental factors. So those are the 4 realms we are going to discuss. The first and the lowest of the 4 formless jhana depends on the infinite space as the meditation object. To get the lowest form of jhana, you use the infinite space as the object of meditation. One chose this object to practice formless jhana after attaining the 5th form sphere jhana. You cannot go and practice directly. First of all, you need to achieve or attain the 5th form jhana. In other words, form jhanas are lower quality than the formless jhana. But without that foundation, you cannot go right into the formless jhana. So let's say a yogi achieved this 5th form jhana. The 5th jhana of the form sphere by using the Adgasina. Adgasina, it's a little round dish made out of earth. You carry it along and you meditate upon it. Let's use that as an example to explain. The yogi with the 5th jhana who possesses the earth disk counterpart sign, abandon that project. So what it means is the 5th form sphere jhana consciousness already possess the counterpart signs of this Atkasina. Counterpart sign, flawless, bright, this conceptual sign. They already possessed it once you have that fifth jhana. But here one has to abandon that sign. One has to abandon that sign. If you don't abandon it, if you are still with it, you cannot go up into the formless level. So you have to give up whatever you own or you have in the form sphere, which is this counterpart at sign. Once one successfully leaves the object, you abandon, you cannot just like throw it away and gone. You really have to practice to abandon it. It is the willpower of the fifth jhana that is establishing that sign. So you have to really try hard to abandon it. Once you are successful leaving that object, that sign, a blank or an empty space will occupy the counterpart sign area, because in your mind there's always that flawless kasina artist. When you abandon it, that counterpart sign is gone. But in that place there will be a blank, totally a blank, a space will occupy. One has to meditate on that conceptual space or blank by labeling infinite space repeatedly. When you are practicing in-breath, out-breath, you say in-breath, out-breath, in-breath, out-breath, or rising, falling. Just like that, you observe that blank space and repeatedly label infinite space. Once the yogi expand that blank space left by the round counterpart sign of the earth disk to the unlimited space. In other words, that space become infinite, unlimited. Everything is covered with that space. Unlimited space. The first formless jhana is established. If you can hold that space on an infinite level, then you have established the first formless jhana. Only then, only after you have established the first formless jhana, the first formless consciousness will arise. We are talking about the consciousness, Arupa, Vacara, Citta. And here, the first one, that's how you can make the first formless consciousness arise. Procedure. And then one feels repulsive of this first formless jhana. You try hard to get it, now you feel repulsive about it because it is close to the fifth form jhana. Okay, fifth form jhana. Form jhanas are made out of material object. So it is very close, adjacent to the fifth jhana of the form sphere. So as it is close to the material, this is pretty gross. Pretty gross. And by feeling that pretty gross, you become repulsive about the first formless jhana. It is gross. It is not refined enough because it is close to the material form sphere jhana. So it is inferior. Because of that thought, one takes the first formless jhana consciousness. Okay, one take the first formless jhana consciousness that knows the infinite space. You take that and meditate upon it by labeling infinite consciousness repeatedly. But first of all, you have to feel repulsive about the first jhana consciousness, which takes the infinite space as an object. Once you become repulsive, then you take that consciousness, the first jhana consciousness, as an object. The first time was you take the space as an object. Now you take the consciousness as the object. And you observe it, repeatedly saying, infinite consciousness, until one attains the second formless jhana. By meditating like that, eventually one will attain second formless jhana, Arupa jhana. Once the second formless consciousness arises, the first formless consciousness disappears because two consciousness cannot coexist. They exist one at a time. At first you have a first jhanic consciousness, but once you have the second jhana, formless jhana, the second formless jhana consciousness arises, its arising make the other disappear because they cannot coexist together, and the first one is inferior as well. The object of the second jhana consciousness is the concept of the first formless consciousness. So in other words, the second consciousness took the first consciousness that has disappeared. So you have to take it as a conceptual form and meditate on that. The first formless consciousness. So that is the second Arupa, Citta. And once you have attained it, the yogi thinks that the second formless jhana cannot be that refined as it is close to the first formless jhana, which is close to the the fifth form, material jhana. That's how one reflects, thinks, or contemplate. With that reflection, one tries to get into the third jhana. So, to get into the third jhana, one has to, so to speak, let go of the second jhana. Without letting go of the second jhana, you cannot go into the third jhana. Without letting go of the first jhana, you cannot go into the second jhana. Again, you have to think, reflect, contemplate that way. Only when you think and reflect that way, you'll be on that path. One tries to get into the third jhana by taking the disappearance of the absence of the first jhana consciousness, first formless jhana consciousness. Okay? Because when you have second jhana, the first jhana is gone. To get into the third jhana, one has to take that jhana consciousness, the first formless jhana consciousness that has disappeared already as an object, conceptual object. And then when you take that as an object that has already disappeared, that is not there, that is gone, you are taking an object which is not there. And you have to label it. There is nothing. There is nothing. That, to make a full sentence, that first jhana consciousness has disappeared. It is absent. There is nothing. There is nothing. As such, one labeled and meditate upon something that is not there. In other words, you are meditating upon nothingness. So, one practices the meditation on the conceptual object of nothingness. Some call it void. You meditate on nothingness, or you meditate upon void. One attains third formless jhana when the void of nothingness become a conceptual reality. They are not ultimate reality, they are conceptual reality. In other words, that nothing or void is a reality once you attain the third jhana. In that way, the third formless jhana consciousness arises. Only when you attain the jhana, then the jhana consciousness will arise. You take the void nothingness as an object of meditation to attain the third formless jhana. However, the yogi is practicing to attain the highest formless jhana. That was the original goal set. So he takes the third formless jhana consciousness as an object again, as an object, and emerges out of it. Because in the third jhana, you are with nothingness. Nothingness is you, void is you, you are void, you are nothingness. But you have to abandon it, so to speak. How do we abandon? First of all, you have to emerge out of it, get out of it, that nothingness and void. Then you have to take the third formless jhana, which is nothingness of void. In other words, you take the nothingness of void as an object and meditate. You just stay in the nothingness of void and meditate, saying peaceful, peaceful, peaceful. The void is peaceful, nothingness is peaceful. Peaceful, peaceful, peaceful. He contemplates that the third formless consciousness is highly advanced and subtle enough to take the void as an object. How can you take a void, nothingness, an object? So, whatever it is, it must be in a very subtle and very advanced. Subtle and advanced. It is very peaceful. It is lofty. That is how one contemplates upon it. Peaceful, subtle, lofty, highly advanced, highly blissful. Then the mind becomes concentrated and the hindrances subdued. However subtle, there's still a hindrances. Those little hindrances subdue and the fourth formless consciousness arises. And the procedure is you just look at the nothingness and say peaceful, 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 till the fourth consciousness, formless consciousness arises. The object of this fourth formless consciousness is neither perception or non-perception. In other words, neither with perception or with non-perception. That is the object of the fourth jhana, fourth formless jhana. And we hear the word perception. In Pali, you remember, we call it sanya. We call the word perception sanya. Sanya by itself is a mental factor. Okay? But the word perception here is when we call neither perception or non-perception. In this context, the perception here is not a mental factor, not cetasika, but a mind base. If you recall them, ear base, eye base, nose base, tongue base, body base, and the mind base. Actually, it is the mind base itself that is neither perception or non-perception. It is simply a trace of mental activity, just a slight trace of mental activity that is so subtle that it is like almost nothing. And yet there is something that what neither perception or non-perception. It is like there's almost nothing, but yet there's something. That kind of state is neither perception or non-perception. And something like, it seems like there is perception there, and it's at the same time it feels like there is no perception there. That is the object of the fourth, formless jhana consciousness. So, these are the 4 levels of jhana. Each one has a distinct object to meditate upon. The first one is infinite space. The second one is infinite consciousness. The third object is nothingness or void. The fourth object is neither perception or non-perception. 4. And these 4 can be found in the wholesome, formless consciousness. Because if you remember, this form sphere consciousness has 3 groups. One is wholesome, one is resultant, one is functional. So, the first explanation is for the wholesome, functional, formless consciousness. Wholesome, formless consciousness. And the second one, formless resultant consciousness, is identical to the formless wholesome consciousness. They both are identical. One is the karma forming consciousness. Wholesome consciousness is the karma forming, karma producing consciousness. Resultant consciousness they do not form new karma. They do not have power to produce new karma. Apart from that, they are exactly the same, identical. Let's say a person practice wholesome, formless jhana in a human realm. He attains all the 4 jhanas and he dies. And then he's reborn in the formless Brahma realm. And when he reborns, his relinking consciousness, rebirth consciousness, or resultant consciousness is identical to the wholesome, formless jhana consciousness, except that one is the karmic forming, the other one is resultant. These 4 types of formless resultant consciousness arises only in the formless Brahma realm. It can arise nowhere except in the formless Brahma realm. Human, Deva, and the Brahmas from the form sphere, 16 of them, cannot experience this formless resultant consciousness. So, that is vipaka, resultant. The next one is functional. Full formless functional consciousness arises in arahants. We all know by now functional consciousness are mainly for the arahants. Of course, Buddha and silent Buddhas included. But let's say arahants, who has attained the full formless jhana, Not every arahant. There are arahants without these jhana. But there are arahants who practice these arupa jhana and they have attained it. And in those arahants who have attained the full formless jhana, that kind of formless functional consciousness arises in them. And again, these consciousness are identical to the formless, wholesome consciousness. They're just identical. The only thing is they do not produce any more new karma because they appear in arahants. And arahants have abandoned all kilesa, mental defilements. That's why these wholesome consciousness are called functional consciousness. The same thing, the name change and one quality change, producing karma and not producing karma. Resultant does not produce karma because it is simply a result. Functional does not produce karma because arahant has abandoned craving and ignorance. That is the third group. Okay. So the above summaries, or I say the above summarized what Arupa, Vacara, Citta, formless sphere consciousness, described in detail in the scripture. What we just said is a very brief statement. It is described in detail in the scriptures. But you have to know, it is not the way to get out of samsara, even though these are the highest bliss one can attain in this mundane world. Lokiya, mundane world. In the mundane world, there is nothing more blissful than these. But still, these are not the way out of samsara. So, may all of you be able to understand the 81 types of mundane consciousness, their characteristics, their functions, their proximate cause and manifestation, and may you be able to utilize it as needed, as required for the benefits of escaping from samsara as soon as possible. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you very much.